You've been told cockroaches would survive a nuclear war, that they're the single dirtiest, most disgusting animal you could share a room with, and that basically every one of them is a pest waiting to invade your kitchen. Almost none of that is true. The real story is stranger. An animal that can survive 15 times the radiation that would kill you, but not the blast itself. That lives for a week after losing its head. That grooms itself cleaner than your own hands. And that scientists have successfully tricked with a robot imposter. Anything you know about cockroaches is wrong. Stick around because the real version is a lot stranger and a lot more interesting. Start with the basics almost nobody has right. Scientists have described more than 4,500 cockroach species across the world. Out of all of those, only around 30 to 50 are actually considered pests, the ones that show up in your kitchen. That means somewhere between 99 and 99.4% of all cockroach species have never once bothered a human being. They live entirely in forests, wetlands, and leaf litter, doing jobs that have nothing to do with your pantry. Some of them are the size of a fingernail. A few, in the tropics, are large enough to startle a grown adult. Almost all of that diversity is invisible to the average person, because it was never designed to interact with us in the first place. Myth number 1, and it might be the most repeated cockroach fact in the world. Cockroaches would survive a nuclear war. The story goes back to Hiroshima, where roaches were reportedly seen crawling through the rubble, while almost nothing else survived. So is it true? It has been repeated so consistently, in so many places, that most people have never actually stopped to check whether the science backs it up. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting, because the myth is half right in a very specific way. Cockroaches really are remarkably radiation resistant. The American cockroach can survive roughly 67,000 rads of radiation. The German cockroach can handle even more, somewhere between 90 and 105,000 rads. Compare that to a human. Our lethal dose is only around 400 to 500 rads. That means a cockroach can absorb somewhere between 6 and 15 times the radiation that would kill a person. And the reason comes down to something almost mundane. Their cells divide far less often than ours, mostly just around molting. So there's simply less fast-dividing tissue for radiation to damage catastrophically. But here's the part the myth leaves out entirely. A nuclear explosion isn't just radiation. It's also an enormous burst of heat and a shockwave powerful enough to level buildings. Neither of those cares how slowly your cells divide. The heat and the blast wave would kill a cockroach exactly as fast as they'd kill anything else standing nearby. Radiation resistant, yes. Blast-proof, absolutely not. Researchers have found that among insects, cockroaches are not even the record holders here. Flower beetles have survived radiation doses that killed every cockroach in the same test. Resilience, it turns out, comes in more forms than any single myth can capture. If radiation isn't the cockroach's real superpower, something else might be, because there's a second survival myth about this animal that turns out to be completely true, for a reason nobody expects. It has to do with what a body needs in order to keep functioning, and how differently a cockroach's body is put together compared to yours. You've probably heard that a cockroach can live without its head. That one isn't an exaggeration, it's real. And it's stranger than the trivia version usually gets across. A decapitated cockroach can stand, walk, and react to being touched for roughly a week before it finally dies. It doesn't die from the injury, it dies of thirst. Here's why that's even possible. Cockroaches don't breathe through their mouths or a nose. They breathe through tiny holes along the sides of their bodies called spiracles, which pipe air directly into the tissues through a network of tubes, no head required at all. And the legs, the abdomen, the walking, the reacting to touch, none of that runs through a single central brain the way it does in you. Each body segment has its own small cluster of nerves, called a ganglion, handling that segment's basic behavior on its own. Remove the head, and you remove sight, smell, and the ability to eat or drink. You don't remove the ability to walk. Scientists have actually tested this directly, training cockroaches to avoid certain smells before decapitation, then confirming the headless body still reacts to touch and stimuli in the same patterned ways for days afterward, clear evidence that meaningful behavior really does continue without a head attached. So the survival stories are true, just not for the reasons people think. What about the other big reputation this animal has being simply, irredeemably filthy? It is one of the most consistent insults thrown at this animal, right alongside the nuclear survival claim. And it turns out to be almost exactly backwards. Cockroaches are, somewhat unbelievably, fastidious groomers. Watch one closely, and you'll see it constantly running its front legs over its antennae, pulling them through its mouth, cleaning them from base to tip, over and over. It isn't vanity. The antennae are covered in microscopic sensors for smell. And dirt-clogged sensors mean missed food, missed danger, missed mates. So they stay clean, almost obsessively. Researchers at the University of Technology, Sydney, actually tested this directly. They had a person and a cockroach touch the same dirty surface, then swabbed both for bacteria. The cockroach came back cleaner than the human hand. That said, and this is the honest, less satisfying part of the story, a cockroach living in an infested space can still pick up and spread real pathogens along the way. Personally hygienic and capable of carrying disease in the wrong environment are not contradictions. They're just two different facts about the same animal. It is a strange kind of compliment nobody expects to give an insect. And it complicates the simple, dirty pest story in a way that's worth sitting with. Clean, resilient, and widely misunderstood. But there's one reputation this animal has fully earned, and the math behind it is genuinely startling. This one, unlike the others, does not need correcting, it needs context, because the number itself is the surprising part. A single female German cockroach produces 4 to 8 egg cases across her lifetime, each one carrying 30 to 40 eggs, sometimes as many as 50. On its own, that's 200 to 300 direct offspring, already a lot. But those offspring reach breeding age in about 100 days under warm, humid conditions, and then they start the same cycle themselves. Run that compounding math across a full year, and one single female's lineage can produce anywhere from 30,000 to as many as 300,000 descendants. That's not an exaggeration for effect. That's just exponential growth, playing out exactly the way exponential growth always does when nothing interrupts it. So they reproduce fast, survive almost anything short of a direct blast, and clean themselves better than expected. The last myth might be the biggest one, that none of this involves anything you'd call intelligence. Not the kind of intelligence you'd see in a single individual solving a puzzle, but something that only shows up when you look at the group as a whole. Cockroaches don't just hide alone, they gather in groups. And as a group, they make decisions. Given a choice between shelters, a group of cockroaches will collectively settle on one option, based on nothing more than simple local interactions between individuals, no leader, no central plan. Researchers built small robots designed to move and behave like cockroaches, and introduced them directly into real cockroach groups. The living cockroaches treated the robots as one of their own. And when researchers adjusted how those robot imposters behaved, they could measurably shift which shelter the entire group chose, even though the robots were a small minority within the group the whole time. That's not blind instinct. That's a real decision-making process, simple enough to model and apparently simple enough to be steered by a machine. It is one of the clearest real-world demonstrations that a group of simple individuals, following simple local rules, can produce behavior that looks a lot like a decision, without any single member of the group ever understanding the choice being made. None of that fits the picture most people carry around of this animal. But the biggest gap between the myth and the reality might be the simplest one. What wild cockroaches actually do for the world they live in. It is the part of the story that almost never makes it into either the horror movie version or the pest control version of this animal. In their natural forest habitats, wild cockroach species are decomposers. They eat dead leaves, rotting wood, and other decaying material. And with the help of microbes living in their gut, they break down cellulose that almost nothing else can digest, returning nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon back into the soil in a form plants can actually use. Surveys of tropical forest canopies have found cockroaches making up roughly a quarter of the total insect biomass living up there. And they're not just recyclers, they're food, feeding birds, lizards, small mammals, and parasitic wasps in staggering numbers. Pull cockroaches out of a forest entirely, and you don't get a cleaner forest. You get a forest that's slower to break down its own dead material and short an enormous chunk of its food web. So here's where all of this actually lands. The animal you were taught to see as the worst pest alive is, for over 99% of its species, something you've never even encountered. It's radiation resistant, but not indestructible. It survives a week without its head, for reasons that have nothing to do with toughness and everything to do with how differently its body is built. It's cleaner than you'd guess, honest about the exceptions, and capable of a kind of group decision-making, sophisticated enough to fool a robot into belonging. And in the forests, where most of its relatives actually live, it's not a problem to be solved. It's part of what keeps the whole system running. The next time you see one, whether it's outdoors doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing, or somewhere it genuinely shouldn't be, you'll know the real story instead of the myth. Anything you know about cockroaches is wrong, but now, a little less of it is.